We're at Rosen Plaza, Orlando, Florida, for the Open Forum. Kenny, what's an Open Forum?
Open Forum number 12. It's a meeting of the minds of the best golf coaches in the industry, giving presentations. We have TrackMan here, Swing Catalyst, and some of the best coaches and teachers in the country will be giving us presentations. So it's a great training opportunity, it's a great networking opportunity, and we might learn something.
Awesome. I love learning. I'm excited. My first time. Let's do it. You've been to this before?
Yes, this isn't my first one. It's my fifth.
Fifth, my man. All right. My first. Can't wait. Let's see what happens.
Again, appreciate you all for joining us. So we first did this back in 2013 in a grill, and this is it was actually, I think, 10 years ago here that we had the first real forum, Open Forum 3. That's a little bit but I'm just going to get right into what you can expect from tonight. We've got a lot of different topics that should appeal to different people's interests. And so if you're into like the neuromuscular system, we've got sponsors, New Tech, and the other room, Ballroom C. Please hang out there as much as you can. There's a bar in there. All the companies that support us are in there. So New Tech is in there with neuromuscular stem system. Talk to Peter Yegazarian and Casey Cox about that. Iron Neck's in there for training stability in the cervical spine. I have one myself. My wife laughs at me using it all the time, but my neck spasms are going away and hers aren't, so I guess I have the last laugh on that one. If you're into ball flight, shot data, we got TrackMan here, platinum sponsor for the 10th time. Big round of applause for TrackMan for just always supporting us. Our oldest supporters. Liam over here, he's going to teach us about just integration for coaches of, you got the video, now we have the 3D, we've got the ball flight. How does it all just get pieced together for a coach and a student? So I use TrackMan every day, and I'm just amazed at the amount of data it has, and I'm just thinking, what do I do with it? So I think Liam's going to talk about that.
How do you not get that much better?
Don't even get me started on that. We got Scott Fawcett here representing the Stack. Decade, and the Stack is here. They've got new radars. They've got new stuff to check out. Maybe get a Stack t-shirt. My teenage daughter actually wears that to high school. So the yellow one is apparently fire, according to a 15-year-old girl. Kinetics, ground mechanics, if that's your thing. Swing Catalysts here with Scott Lynn. Drew Cooper's also here. Fellow Bay Area guy, 200-mile-an-hour ball speed, golf swing that makes grown men cry. He's going to be on a panel. Scott's going to present. If you're into training for speed or just understanding what the golfer's body needs to do to be prepared for that, we got a panel with Ben Shear, Sasha McKenzie, Greg Rose. We got Josh Koch, and also Martin Borgmeier will be talking about center of mass and using XView, another platinum sponsor. So our big platinum sponsors are TrackMan, Swing Catalyst, and XView. XView is a new sponsor company. They're another markerless 3D company. Really cool product. You should definitely check it out, both in our sponsor room and at the show. And so for right now, I'm going to kick it off. I'm going to let Liam take over. I'll have a little more sponsor messages later, but I want Liam to. Mike he's got something to say too. Oh yeah, a little bit of. Let's see, we'll call it a little lecture up front. We'll see what he has to say.
First of all, thanks guys. Obviously, none of us could do this if you guys weren't interested and you guys didn't want this. So obviously that's what keeps us coming back and putting together hopefully great lineups and some great education for you. But on that note, just a couple quick things. So first off, many of you are going to see the microphone right here. If you have questions, whether it's for a presenter, panel, sponsor, whatever, it does not matter. Go to the mic. It is not that hard, okay? I promise you. Second, do me a favor. If you're going to hang out, yes, the sponsor room is awesome. If you're hanging out here and you're talking and you're disrupting the presentations, first I have to yell at you, then I have to kick your ass. I really don't want to do it, but I will. So do yourself a favor, at least go into the sponsor room, okay?
I can tell, and I think it could maybe help a lot of people in the room. You know, and as I look around at so many of the people that I see out here, you know, there's so much information that you guys have shared with all of us, and you know, my hope is that, you know, some of the great ideas, some of the great research that people have done, that maybe this gives you an idea of how you can, I guess, turn it into a product. And you know, I'll start with, I guess, that grip pressure stuff. This presentation, I got no graphs, I got no like videos, I got no 3D, I got none of that stuff to share with anyone. But a lot of people have come up and they've asked me like, hey, like, how are you using this for coaching and what are you doing and all that kind of stuff. And so I gotta be honest, like, you know, we're 2 years after having done the research, and I've had some successes with good players and having that as a cue. And for people that I'll say, oh God, I just walked myself in the goddamn thing, okay? For people that aren't good players, it can be absolutely disastrous. So let me tell you a story. My wife Wendy's in the back there, and she proofreads all my articles because my grammar's terrible. So, you know, probably a year and a half ago, she comes back to the house from the range, she's all angry and, you know, rattles her clubs around and goes, God damn it, Liam, that article's bullshit. I read the whole thing, I went out, I tried to hit balls, I hit it so bad, I was shanking it, I almost threw my club, so I'm coming home, I hate it. And I gotta tell you, I think that's probably happened to an awful lot of people. But we started to look at it and go, I still don't know if this has any application to coaching, like say high handicap, mid handicap golfers, which for us at the Golf Lab as a business, like that's how we all kind of earn our living. And so, you know, we started to try and think about what could we kind of do with this. And this was kind of the first idea. I've actually got this first prototype up here. You guys can come and see it over in the sponsor booth. It looks weird, it's terrible. But the basic idea, for those of you guys who don't know, I've become a little bit involved in the baseball space. And so we work with this company called Marucci, and they make bats, gloves, all kind of stuff. And they acquired this company called Lizard Skins. And Lizard Skins is the official bat grip of Major League Baseball. They're the official stick grip of the NHL. They're really big in the cycling, and they make this material here. It's on this thing called BSP Ultra. We'll get to that in a second, but this was kind of the idea, like, hey, what if we actually tried to take some research and we're going to take a look at, like, okay, well, where were the pressure points on the glove, right? Regardless of how they apply, but what were the key pressure points, and could we make something that would provide better control over the club face? You know, these pieces on the finger were too big, and you grab it and put it on it, like it bunches all over the place. It kind of feels terrible.
Practice and how it's evolving with all the tools that are out there and methods. And so we've got some CEOs up here. We've got Keith down here is the CEO of Golf Live. They're pioneering live streaming and different ways a coach can give an online lesson and give feedback from the video during the lesson. We have Gear Fisher from OnForm. A lot of your OnForm customers out here, and the video tools in that software are amazing for replaying practice sessions. We've got Baden Schaff from Skillest. Skillest is working on some really cool stuff with the Shadow Pro, and he's got a lot to say about maybe how pros are misunderstanding the purpose of AI for a golf coach. And I wanted to include Drew in this because I know he thinks a lot about practice, training. Next Gear is a company that he's involved with, and they do a lot of programming for athletes and treating golfers more like athletes. So would love to, I'm going to actually kick it off to Luke. I'm thinking you probably have a good starter question, and then my job is to try to maybe interject if something seems like it could go in another direction. So why don't we have you start off, Luke?
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for coming and listening to this, and thank you to all the panelists too. And I guess this will just be a general one for the group, but I would say that when you look at the golfer standing in front of you, you know, the kind of average golfer who comes for a lesson, what do you think present the biggest opportunities in how they practice that you think you can upgrade, that your technology is here to solve for? Like, what are they doing wrong that you guys really want to be the solution to? Go for it.
You know, I think that our goal is not just necessarily inside that lesson, but even after that lesson, and at Golf Live, we're really working on streamlining all communications and staying connected to your students 24/7. So whether you be you're recording the in-person lesson, whether you're doing swing analysis videos back and forth when they're not with you, whether you're doing live virtual calls with them when you're not with you, just constantly staying connected. And we're living in a day and age that is filled with content and filled with golfers all over the place, right? And being able to scale your business in different ways, maybe more so than 10 years ago. And so I think that if we can connect a coach to their golfer or future golfers in a more consistent manner, that you can constantly have retention with that student, repetition with that student, and you'll see their trajectory go up. And we've seen it time and time again, especially in this day and age with high school students playing all over the place, right? And tour players are constantly traveling, obviously. Being able to stay connected with them in a very intimate way, even though it's somewhat virtual, is really important.
Anybody else? Yeah, go for it.
I would say we are really, the way we think about our product and practice is the concept of deliberate practice, if you've heard of that, and bringing more objective data into the equation, going from seeing people, on the range, just, some of them don't even aim, to practice inside, indoor studios and sims have been growing a ton. We're trying to capture the equation of the inputs and the outputs and bring more objective data to that and just make the workflow seamless. So automatically capture the swing, understand the biomechanics of the body, capture the impact, and understand what the ball and club are doing on the outset, so that we can actually start to bring true objective information across the entire part of practice rather than just hitting balls. And what I really think would be great is, and eventually we'll get to it, setting a goal. Set a goal for practice. Just like you might set an overarching goal of saying, I want to drop my handicap 5 points, or I want to, do well in my D flight at the club championship, whatever. But setting a goal, getting expert instruction, empowering the coach to provide specific objective practice capability, and then recording that all super smooth and easy, and keep that feedback loop going is how we really think about it.
Yeah, I think all of that is 100% true. So, and we probably all have slightly different perspectives on it. I think that just most students, when they practice, go off on tangents. I think we've all done it as players ourselves, as professional players, and how we've gone on self-discovery is that even if you get incredible instruction from a coach, it is the easiest thing in the world to, even if it's perfectly documented, to go into a practice session and after 2 little squiggly ones go, oh my God, what am I doing? Maybe I'll just give it a bit of this, or I'll extend it a bit more there, or I'll rotate more, and it's just so easy to get lost. So I suppose what we're, especially moving forward with a couple of the products that we're going to release, so we're actually creating something called Shadow Pro, which is already out in the wild and it's getting some pretty wild adoption, which is essentially a digital twin of your coach. So we've got a lot of structure from the way our coaches train our students within the actual lesson itself. Most of our students go home either from in-person or online lessons with 10 to 15 minutes of really well documented stuff. The AI essentially captures all of that and then becomes your coach's digital twin as you're practicing. So when you're practicing, it quite literally bounces ideas off you, you give it feedback, and it uses all of the stuff of the lesson to give you the most incredibly structured practice session, and then your coach gets a full feedback of exactly how that went. And it's pretty wild. And one of the things I think that's beautiful about something like that is that we absolutely love data, and there's so many incredible products that capture it. But I think something that has probably been missing in coaching is that no one is putting communication on steroids during the actual session itself, the practice session itself. So we do obviously love our data, and we can sometimes even get hung up on data. But as so many coaches probably know here, and some of the coaches that use our product, we actually believe a lot of the answers are in the conversation between coach and student. So you capture data, and probably if, all of us, I've been a teaching pro for 25 years, in a session, sometimes maybe the data takes up about 10 to 20% of the entire session, and then it's a beautiful conversation between coach and student, and we think that's been missing, and so we're trying to facilitate that going forward.
Yeah, so from a coaching perspective, I would say the technology side, like I leverage OnForm with online lessons currently. If I'm looking at novice versus elite, let's call them elite, very good golfers versus very poor golfers, I'll leverage technology differently. So the sub-elite, the novice, can utilize constraints. So you rein in variability. So you give them, whether it's physical, whether it's in person, if it's an implement on the side of the head, on the side of the hip, top of the head, you're trying to stop them from having this wide range of variance. So it could be data points, could be sway numbers, could be lift numbers, thrust. It could be kinetics from the ground, it could be late verticals, long horizontal shifts. You can use data to add constraints, like bumper lanes on a bowling alley. With an elite player, you want to chase specificity. So like if you're doing things with a great golfer, with a great swing, and you're pulling them far away from what they specifically do, so you're trying to give somebody a single arm, no golf ball, no golf club drill, that transfer to the elite athlete is probably less, or it's a waste of time, or it's a hindrance. Or the sub-elite, the novice, you can get a lot out of general training. So my background's in strength and conditioning. This same stuff goes for weightlifting. So to give you like a powerlifting example, if you're trying to train a squat, if you have somebody who has a 600-700 pound squat, those people don't develop better squats by doing leg extensions and lunges. You have to squat. You have to squat heavy weight, and you have to do it frequently. A novice who can't squat their body weight gets huge benefits out of doing lunges, leg extensions, glute bridges. They can do things that are very general, and same thing with skill acquisition. You can get more out of very little with poor players, and you can actually pull away from great players if you have them drift too far away. So I use tech in that way.
I guess
Number 2. So Dean, I'll just raise my hand and go forward on the slides. Is that good? Okay. All right. So golf science and you, a little bit of a smart ass title. So that's what it's all about. Next slide. So this is Phil Cheatham's PhD dissertation, and up the y-axis, driving accuracy for a year on tour, and then on the bottom, on the x-axis, was the twisting of the handle about the shaft. And so you can see the lowest handle twist was about 700 degrees per second, and then the highest was all the way over at 2,500 degrees per second. But as you can see, it's basically a shotgun blast, and there's no correlation between somebody not twisting on the handle of the club or twisting at a low rate versus twisting at a high rate. They're all over the board as far as driving accuracy. It's a graph I wanted to put up just to kind of highlight what people that are in the hard sciences, like Phil Cheatham, can do and bring to us teachers. Just one little graph like that can open up some possibilities in your teaching. Like maybe don't try to get somebody to shovel the club face through the ball to reduce their rate of closure so they can hit it straighter. So it's just one small example of what golf science can bring us. So next slide. So this is definitely from my point of view, it's my opinion. I was just out in the hallway talking to TPI, and they had some opinions, I had some opinions, and we were talking it through. And that's exactly what we're going to do here in the next 15 minutes. But again, this is how I see things. Whether I'm right or wrong, I'll let you guys be the judge. All right, next slide. So I like to appeal to authority. Sometimes people would look at that and say, well, you don't really want to do that. You want to go out and do your own research. But in this situation, I'm busy teaching golf, and there's people in this room that are trained to do experiments, test hypotheses, and go out and get some results for us. And they build upon each other, throughout the years. And then, go ahead, next slide. So I'm going to be making multiple appeals to authority all the time. And there's about 15 people in this room who I appeal to. There's about 300 people or 200 people in the room, whatever, that I don't appeal to because they're teachers just like me. and we're very limited in what we can, divine from science. And I'm a big appeal to authority guy, whether that's right or wrong. That's what I do. Next slide. These are some of the guys that I appeal to: Sasha McKenzie, Rob Neal, Bob Grober, Chris Como, I throw him up there, Stephen Nesbitt, Younghoon Kwan, Dieter Olson, Paul Wood, Art Maffei, Eric Hendrickson, Frederick Tuxson, Phil Cheatham, Mike Duffy, and Dave Tuttleman. That's 14 guys up there. I probably could have listed 20 others, but those are 14 of the main guys that have gone out, done the research, whether they work at a club company or a university. Those guys are giving us information that we need to use on the lesson tee. It won't be too technical. You read what they write, you kind of bring it into your teaching toolbox, and then you go out and become a better instructor. Next slide. The people that do publish papers, they have an introduction with their hypothesis, then they explain the methods, how they collected the data. They have the results of the data, they get the data collected, they have a discussion, and then they do citations. So this is the way science works: peer review, they advance ideas forward. Each researcher builds on the prior research that's out there, and it's just it's a very comfortable thing for them to do. Obviously, the peer review can tell those guys, hey, you got this wrong, you got that wrong, and they can adjust and move forward. But I think this is the proper way to do golf science. Maybe not be a golf teacher, but this is the way to do golf science. Go ahead, next slide. So I have 3 silos, and again, this is my opinion. You have the search for the perfect swing silo, the golfing machine silo, and then what tour players say silo. I could have added what golf instructors say to that last silo, because it covers about 99% of the instruction out there, what tour players say and what golf instructors say. The first silo, go ahead and hit the next slide if you don't mind. The search for the perfect swing, in my mind, is hard science. The golfing machine is faux science, and then what tour players say is a bunch of feels. And God knows, if you were to watch me give a 60-minute lesson, I would give a bunch of feels to my student. But the feels are coming from stuff that I learned over in silo number 1, hopefully. When you get stuck in silo 2, that's when some things can go wrong.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks to Mike for kind of teeing it up first, and the plug for the World Scientific Congress of Golf, which will happen in March of 2027 at the TPI facility in Oceanside, California. So thanks to Dave and Greg for giving me access to that facility. My goal is to get as many scientists, golf teachers, and everybody in the industry there to hopefully move things along and have those discussions that Mike just talked about, so that we can all learn stuff and all get better. So if you can join us that time, it's going to be late March. We're going to work out the dates pretty soon of 2027 in Oceanside, so that would be great if you could join us for that. So today we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to dive into the weeds with a little bit more physics and biomechanics here, and talk about manipulating the frontal plane moment, which is something that a lot of people have been talking about for a while in the golf instruction community. And so we're going to talk about some things to do with this moment and how we manipulate it. So I think in the past when we've talked about grounding action forces, we've always kind of looked at them in isolation. So a lot of people talk about the timing of your vertical force, which I think is important. But knowing the timing of the vertical forces relative to when all the other forces are peaking, and also relative to where the body and the club are in space, I think is even more important than that. So instead of looking at these things in isolation, we need to look at them all together and also know where the body is in space during that time where these forces are happening. And so if you go to any biomechanics lab, they're going to put markers all over you, or now there's markerless solutions to do the same thing, that track where the body and club are in space, and then you have the grounding action forces that you measure off the floor, and that's all collected in the same space. And at Swing Catalyst, we've been working for a long time to create a product that can do that for you guys, because not a lot of you have access to Sasha's lab in Canada, or Kwan's lab, or my lab, and so it's difficult to get this information, to see all these things in the same space. And I think in the past we've just looked at 2D video and tried to assume where those things are, but now I think understanding where those are is really the engine of the golf swing, and so we can really understand these ground action forces in that context, I think, a lot better. And so there was some discussion in the last talk about swing planes. I start to look now at the net swing plane of the golfer and when they're swinging. And I always kind of tell people when a golf swing happens, it generally happens in a combination of a frontal and transverse plane. So the frontal plane would be the anatomical plane that kind of cuts me into a front and back half. And if I made a pure frontal plane golf swing, it would look like just lifting the club up like this and then dropping it on the ball. That would be a pure frontal plane golf swing. I've yet to see a golf swing that is purely frontal plane. If I did a swing that looked like this, and I held the club here, and I kind of teed the ball up on the big tee and had it right from here and just spun and hit it like this would be a pure transverse plane golf swing. I've seen baseball swings that are like this. I have not seen a golf swing like this. And so every golf swing I think is somewhere in between a pure frontal plane and a pure transverse plane golf swing. I have been doing a lot of work in baseball recently. I think Lynn, Mucklow talked earlier about the work he's been doing in baseball. We've been working together with a lot of baseball stuff, and it's really informed me. I think I learned a lot from baseball. I took what I learned from golf to baseball, learned a lot from baseball, and have brought it back to golf. I think it's kind of made me better at both things, but I would say on average, the transverse plane is a lot more important in baseball because the ball's in the air. And in golf, I would say that the frontal plane is a bit more important, but in baseball, the ball moves around a little bit, so where the ball is in the zone can really affect which plane is more important in the task at hand. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second.
Most of my life. Over COVID, obviously that was a massive disruption for me. Got to mid-40s and then, I was either keep going or twin girls that were 12 at the time. Decided to pack it in, so did my bridging over COVID. So I'm a fellow PGA, which is great. I've been teaching for the last 3 years, and I'll lead a couple of shots today. I'll tell you about some of the stuff that I've seen, some of the interpretation maybe, the lingo that maybe goes around that I try to tell my students to maybe help address how this golf club's going to move around their body, particularly with chipping. So unfortunately with chipping is one of those areas where you've got the most amount of loft swinging at with the least amount of club head speed. So, or they're thereabouts. So let's say you hit your 8 iron 160 meters. Professionally, if we were to hit that heavy and it went up 150, we miss our target by 10 meters. That's catastrophically bad. So we've got a 30-foot putt. We're pretty pissed with that. So we go to the driving range for a couple of hours after we finish the round of golf, in one bad golf shot, and we go work on that golf swing. Because that's, that would probably haunt us for the rest of the day. So, but it's missed the target by 7%. So it's got 93% of this number. So I tell my kids, you're not as bad as what you think you are, for the fact that when you start to move into the realm of having the most amount of loft right here, swinging at, as I say, if you want to carry it 10 meters, I might hit this 100 meters. So at 10% energy, we've all been there, but we can catch this slightly heavy into the grain or otherwise, and if we can move it 2 meters, so what have we missed our target by? So 80%. Could you imagine missing your target by 80% with an 8 iron? The thing's going 35, 40 odd meters up the fairway. So that would be seriously catastrophic. So I grew up professionally, everyone hanging their hat on the fact that hitting 18 greens was like the ideal in terms of the talent code. And there's still definitely a talent hitting 18 greens. So, but in terms of the specifics of actually hitting a chip shot, perfect off a tight line, carrying it to your number. So if you really think about that and do this tomorrow or whenever you're next out, just pace out 10 meters. So we know that 7% is a miss, is catastrophic with an 8 iron. So if 1 meter, 100 centimeters, we go to 700 right here. So that's catastrophic with an 8 iron. So with a chip shot from 10 meters, with your sandwich, try and land in that catastrophic area, margin for error, because that's what it is with an 8 iron. So it's pretty unrealistic when people start talking about having the ideal launch and the ideal spin characteristics. That's pretty hard when you start to move a golf club so slowly around your body, such as this, when just anything, any bit of debris, the like we see in indentation. And what I found is that what you might lose in strike rolls up the face, a bit of debris gets in it, might not carry as far, but at least whatever you lose in that penetration of speed and flight, hitting it lower, then it actually comes out slower. It's not speed, it's lower one will come out slower than a higher one. But still, what you lose in that speed is you'll make up in roll, or you'll need to catch up with spin. So it pretty much works itself out in the wash anyway. So I say to my kids, if you're trying to like hit this perfect spinner and trying to like get this perfect distance every single time, there's going to be some like massive margins of error in the short game. So obviously that low point control is really, really massive. So to talk about some of the concepts that I think may be a little bit misleading, that you might be able to think about yourself, is that the concept of hitting down on. So if you thought of down, what would be your concept of down? So if you get this to any individual who plays off 15 or more, and you said, right, what's your concept of moving this golf club down? They'll probably run it this way. So if I had a hammer, nail, that would be my action, radial or not this way. So that's what I would think. That would make sense to me to move the golf club in this direction down. So as we set up in chipping, we'll actually have a set angle just here, whatever that may be. Call it 30 degrees. So we can add to this radially, but if we actually have to now extend beyond this, coming back into impact, the low point is now compromised. So if my wrists will go from neutral to pronation back to supination to return this golf club to some degree, and I now move it in this direction, then we're in trouble. So having the awareness, this golf club will have a dead mass right here. So what was really impressive is Gary Player shifting 3 golf clubs up with his fingers. So when I move this golf club as a feeling of dead mass, I move it up to 90 degrees, gravity being gravity, the golf club and the actual leverage point being the furthest away from the handle, is that this golf club will be at its heaviest right here. And I can feel that. If I move this finger back slightly further to create more leverage, it gets even heavier. If I move it away from 90, it starts to get lighter. So we get to 64 degrees, this is the plane in which we swing in. So it has a dead mass and also as well, a torque that's going to generate on your hands right here. So when I go to this point just here, between index finger on my left hand and pad, I'm still holding this golf club up. So the awareness of that starts to get a bit diluted when the 3 fingers go on it, and then the right hand goes on it. So right now it just feels like a bit of a dead mass. So, but still, that mass is still there, and I still need to be aware of that angle in which I return. So I'm really trying to feel when I'm returning this golf club is that radial angle is still being adhered to. So if it is, I can move my wrists from neutral, pronation back into supination, and move it beyond me. So, but most importantly, I can be a bit more patient with my body at the same time. So what I would see, I'll move further left here so I don't shank it.
Chris,
what you would see.
Could you stand right here, Chris?
Yeah, with a mitt. So what I would see is that there's many ways in which we can get this golf club now moving on the circumference here. And what I will notice is that with chipping, the concept of getting up would be to lower the humerus just here. So this is what's getting the golf club up, kind of pulls it behind. Body becomes inactive, so they've got impact anxiety, so there's no way they're going to reverse this elbow and move it back forward to shift their low point around. They leave it here, and then they use their wrists in some way through ulnar deviation, a bit of supination, pronation to get it back. So this lines up behind the golf ball at this point. How can I shift it in front? I'm going to move my sternum, remain in flexion, and I'll move forward that way. So they bend their elbow, they dump out, and they chip it this way. Elbow stays back. And that's kind of like a matching movement there. We've probably seen that. The majority of all balls down the golf club would move the golf club in that direction. So the concept would be to bend the elbow, dump out, and then move their sternum with their elbow behind them. So the opposite of that would be, is this microphone? Would be to hinge the wrists, and I can now move my arm from abduction slightly into adduction. This shoulder clavicle also has about 35 degrees of frontal plane call it front deployment, horizontal deployment, rotation just here. So I can actually start to now move my humerus through my pronation through here, and also now get it moving, the right arm moving into adduction. So that's the opposite. So I can get it to here, start to shift the right arm across. So it starts moving more towards my center line. So if my hand right here, from a fulcrum point, hangs beneath me. If I move it into adduction, where's my hand go?
Okay, Mom, I don't need you to drive it, it's really not like here. And that's kind of what we did. We got another one day, and then it came along. I remember driving down to Buffalo to pick up a AMM system and drive back to Canada. Told me I just went to lunch trying to avoid taxes. Then it was gears, then it was politics, then it was Intertracks. And what Frederick's going to talk to you about now is what I believe to be the first and best opportunity for motion capture in the state. Not only do we get immediate actionable data, but they've also been able to remove all of the complexity and just make it so simple. So I'll let you go ahead and order the slide.
All right, so next slide, please. So as Finney was saying before, 23 years ago we started TrackMan, and so there's a little bit of history here. And what we were obsessed with was to find out where a ball landed on a driving range. It was all about what the ball was doing. So my solution to that was to track the ball all the way to the full trajectory. Nobody else was doing that. And then we thought, okay, game over, we've solved that. Golf is all about what the ball is doing. And I remember the first time we developed this for some of the big equipment manufacturers, because that was our first customers. They started asking, well, can you measure the spin rate? And I looked at them and said, why do you want to know the spin rate? I mean, golf is about where the ball is landing. Well, I got educated, I got a license, so yes, I went home, worked on that, and found out how to determine that. And then you say, it evolved from there, because how can you then affect the ball trajectory? Well, that's all about how you deliver the club. So that's how we did, all, the club tracking, and, discovered Gary Jorgensen had written this great book about the deep lane, but nobody was using it, and so we're building on that. Because the ball is a reaction to what the club is doing. So why I'm saying this is because what is the club doing? It's doing what the body is doing. So it's a completely natural extension that we now are adding body tracking to the TrackMan offering.
Town road down the song. I just can't remember who to send it to. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. Won't you look down upon me, Jesus? You gotta help me to make a stand. You just got to see me through another day. My body's aching and my time is at hand. And I won't make it any other way. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again.
I'm not wearing shorts today because I used to be a long driver at some point in my career, Nowadays, I'm mostly posting stupid videos on Instagram and YouTube.
I thought you wore the shorts as a male model or something.
Yeah, and most of them I'm wearing really short shorts. And that baits a lot of comments. Just like Michael Michaelides. But anyways, this is not what we're going to talk about today. Today we're going to talk about 92% effort. Because throughout my career, I've been doing a lot of speed training, obviously pumping my swing speed up from 120 miles an hour when I started off to like up to 168 miles an hour at my peak. And that's quite a curve, yeah? And the question is, does it make sense for golf to follow these long drive principles? And if yes, what are the principles? But first of all, I want to show you something absolutely nuts. And it is this video right here. Yeah, pretty nuts, huh? That was me a couple years ago when I was trying to break 230 ball speed and I stopped at 229.9. And that video got 6.6 million views. People liked it. The comments were interesting, but people kind of liked it. So then, a little later, I posted this video. A good 425 yards of carry. And now the ball speed pops up at 231. So that ball speed and that entire shot was actually much better than everything I've shown in the first video. But the first one created 6.6 million views, and this one, which is actually the much better shot, much faster, longer, everything, created 85,000 views. So what everything on social media is kind of about is presentation and what you show, and how you show it, and not necessarily what you show. And most people believe the 6.6 million view video where I was yelling like crazy is kind of what we do on a daily basis, but they didn't really understand what it was about and why we did it. Because what we actually do as long drivers is we practice like 6.6 million views to achieve what I've done in the 85,000 view video. Because that was relatively easy effort. I didn't even yell, right? And I beat my ball speed record from the video before a couple months later. It was just an easy shot on course practicing kind of. So now, how does this principle work? This principle I'm talking about is called speed reserve. So let's say as a regular golfer, our playing speed out on course is 100 miles an hour. So now, as that golfer would try to push their speed by swinging harder or faster, he or she might get up to 109 miles an hour speed. And now you can already see, doing that math, we're at 92%. So 92% effort is, from my experience, the golden percentage of effort for play speed. So now, through speed training, and what I did in the video on the left side, we can push that to maybe a speed like this. So maybe through speed training, by really hitting the ball hard and doing that over and over again, the body is going to adapt, especially the central nervous system is going to adapt, and with exactly the same swing, we can achieve a higher speed. So now, why would you do that as a golfer? Maybe your goal is to swing faster out on course, but obviously when you're out on course, you're not trying to kill it every single time. What you're trying to do is you're trying to swing to your play speed, but to achieve a higher speed. And that's by raising the speed reserve. So you raise the max to also raise your play speed. So that example is 107 miles an hour up to 116 max. Could be even more the more you practice, but from my perspective, what's even more effective is something I call the mechanics reserve. So let's say again, we're at 100 miles an hour play speed, at 109 miles an hour maximum speed. Now, through certain swing changes that we could apply, I truly believe anyone at this speed, if he or she, maybe more he, would try really, really hard and apply all the long drive principles we have, everything. I truly believe any person out there at this speed could get to 140 miles an hour max swing speed and about 120 miles an hour play speed. So now the question is, does this make sense? Yeah, do we really want to apply every single principle out there to become better golfers? As long drivers, absolutely, because long drives are obviously different. So in long drive, we have 6 tries, and we only have to hit one of these 6 tries into the grid.
Your story, obviously, but David, you also want to say a few bits about the visual truth and the 3D reconstruction we do.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Martin, for presenting on our behalf. And, I'm just honestly just so thrilled to be here. You guys are all just very highly qualified people. I'm just a young guy trying to, in the AI space at the moment. But, the way I got into this is pretty crazy too. At first, after college, I was working for my father. I was working in his foundation, also working as his manager. I was looking for sponsorships, and I actually wanted XView to sponsor my dad. So I saw something online about XView. I was doing a lot of research about AI. I knew it was the next thing, especially when it comes to sports performance. So I ran into XView. I asked for to be on their beta. I used the app of my father, using some of the tools that they were offering at the time. And we actually found some swing issues. He hadn't been working with a coach for a while. He was on the Champs Tour. He's 54 at this time. People kind of forgetting about him, but I'm trying to make sure he's staying on top of his game. So I put his swing through the app, and lo and behold, I found an error. I grew up playing golf. I grew up in the Tiger era. I know what a good swing looks like, etc. But I'm not a pro, so he doesn't really listen to me when I'm giving him advice on the swing. With XView, it's so visual. All I did was I showed him a screen, and you could actually see, a few pixels where he was off in his downswing. It was causing early extension. His back is, giving him a little pain. He also looked at it and immediately recognized the issue. And KJ's been a field player for his whole life. Doesn't really look into the analytics and the numbers. And the golf has always been kind of progressing towards numbers and what the numbers mean. But XView is very visual, and he was able to just very clearly and very quickly understand what the issue was. It took him 10 minutes of just kind of brainstorming. Next thing you know, he's coming to me and asking me to record another one for XView. That next swing, we were able to actually, the pixels were gone. He fixed it. He was no longer early extending. I'm not saying that if you use XView, all of your students are going to fix early extension, etc. But it's very visual and very powerful to have a player understand what that means. Fast forward 2 months after that moment, and he became the oldest champion out of Asia to win on tour. He won in Korea at the Askia Telecom, and then 2 months later, he finally achieved his lifelong dream of becoming a major champion, winning the British Senior. So instantly found results. Instantly we found performance enhancement through that. And, again, I wanted XP to sponsor him. Actually, he ended up investing in the company, and as you saw in the video, I asked for a position here to work on business development, help with partnerships and investment, etc. Coming from a business background, and here we are today, a couple years later. This is going to be my 3rd year at the company. So, as Martin mentioned, we're here, I'm going to be up here talking about kind of 3D. Obviously, you saw the 2D tools and how powerful they can be, tracking your performance, tracking your golf swing with Martin. Now, I would challenge anybody here to record Martin's swing and try to analyze it not only with your own eyes but other AI tools. I mean, the swing is so fast that even cameras can't quite capture it, right? But we've been able to, work with Martin and be able to, train our model to be able to identify not only Martin's body movements and biomechanics, but also track the golf club, which is going so fast, all from the power of your iPhone. So we use those reference points on the 2D side, and now with a very highly accurate and high fidelity 2D models, we can actually recreate and reconstruct 3D from 2 different angles. So,
I saw so many challenges with golf, and it was really around how can I improve as quickly as I can. So it was really important to see, and for me to make those changes, what I was thinking to match what I was seeing. And that was really the important part about XView, which is that I needed to see that feedback very quickly as I was thinking and to make those changes, right? So the other thing that was very important to me, because there are a lot of apps out there, and also, there's, apps that also do 2D, 3D. What's actually very important is that the AI, and there's a lot of talk about AI too, it's very important that the AI is telling the truth, that it's not hallucinating. And that was really very important to me, coming from a data perspective. So what was most important about XView was that we could actually match your skeleton, from 2 different angles, and we do need 2 different down the line face-on view, right? Because you cannot get depth just from one direction. You need 2 different angles to get that 3D. So what we actually did was we mapped every single point to your actual video to know that it's to you, right? That it's not just like an avatar or something like that. We also track your club head. You can actually see how your club head is moving and tracking that. So that that avatar is you. And from that, we can actually start to then generate, recommendations and, about how you're swinging. And the whole purpose is to be able to assist coaches like yourselves, to have a more engaging experience, especially with the students. So, and I think AI does have a role that, it'll help, provide, supplement teaching for students, even when they're not with their coaches. So, I think that's really where we're going with this whole, AI. It's really there to support us, even as technologists ourselves. We use AI too, and it increases our productivity. And so, that's it. And encourage everyone here to try it, and just want to thank you all so much.
First of all, thank you all for attending. Thank you all for taking the time to come and spend 20-25 minutes with me. As the guy said, my name is Stephen Sweeney. I am originally from West Coast of Ireland. Been teaching golf now since 2006. With my first tour pro, that was the year I started working with a guy called Michael Michaelides on the European Tour. A lot of people ask me how I got into putting, really by mistake, by sort of not being a very good swing coach is the answer. I had 3-4 clients in the European Tour. As I said, the first one was Michael Michaelides in 06. I was working with him on full swing, short game, putting, everything. And Michael he probably would not hold this against me, but he was not the most talented of ball strikers. But he won 3 times in the European Tour. In the first year we worked together, he went from number 128 to number 8 on the putting stats. Next guy who came to see me was a young kid called Joachim Lagergren, also from Sweden. There we go, we got some Swedes in the house. His ball striking numbers also did not really improve very much, but his putting stats got dramatically better. And after about a year and a half, I basically could not give a swing lesson away for free. But I was inundated with tour pros coming to me looking for help with their putting. A little bit different to the modern day on the PGA Tour. Back on the European Tour in that time, prize money was not the greatest, and getting a couple of % here or there from players on the European Tour didn't add up to a lot. So I would also subsidize my weekly earnings by competing against some of the players on the putting green in a traditional putting competition for a few euros back in the day. And whenever the guys were kind of losing a little bit of money to me on the green, they realized that I could actually I could actually do what I was talking about, which was hold putts. That was around 2008, and around that time I decided that I was going to specialize just in putting and move away from including full swing and short game instruction. That's when I decided to really deep dive into everything putting related, and was very lucky to meet a gentleman called Dr. Paul Hurrian, who I'm sure most of you will be familiar with. He is the guy that created the Quintic ball roll. Dr. Paul mentored me for well over a decade, and in that time helped me become quite successful in coaching tour professionals, both on men's and women's tours, as well as many of the leading amateurs. And when I moved to Germany back in 2011, I was very lucky that a golf club with a single owner, was one of the wealthiest billionaires in Germany, gave me a carte blanche on designing a putting studio in Germany. During that process, I went and visited pretty much all of the leading OEMs putting studios, from Scotty Cameron to TaylorMade to Odyssey, and we were able to create something in Germany which was by far and away at the time the most high-tech putting studio in Europe. Through all the data collection and sort of R&D that we did in that studio, it sort of set me on my way to trying to create the optimum sort of practice facility and data collection facility that I could for elite players. And when we started looking through trends on Quintic ball roll, we started to notice a lot of the commonalities that the best putters had versus players that didn't putt as well on tour. Albeit that Quintic is a 2D system, it was obviously a camera system recording the club and the ball through impact and at setup, but only through a sort of 4-inch movement through the ball. After I moved to the States, still using Quintic ball roll, I was very lucky to get in touch with some of the industry leading people in 3D motion capture. At my fulcrum of basically my sternum and 1 inch to the left side of that. Now once I find that point and I'm able to set up and grab the putter, once I start to move the putter back and forward, it won't allow me to really move the putter off of that arc, and the face will stay completely square to the arc that I'm swinging the putter on. Obviously, from a training perspective, right now, it's, in my mind, it's the only thing that can actually replicate this in the real world. The feedback that we've had from the tour pros and the elite players that we work with has been incredible to understand just how overarching and over-rotating they generally are with their stroke mechanics. This setup for the golfer, I mean, there's neighbors of mine in Jupiter, like I think actually Brad Faxon just walked into the room, who's set up with quite a unique open stance for his feet, his baseline, everything being open. However, that's not something that's going to affect the position of this. This is all done relative to the putter moving on an arc relative to the target. This isn't something where we're saying you have to set up dead square with everything like hips, knees, feet. That's not what we're talking about at all. This is purely the movement of the putter relative to the aim line or the start line that you've decided. So that's a piece of technology that we
bring to the swing, basically. So that's the limit of where we measured things back then. All right. Just one thing. A lot of the stuff that I've done, you stayed long enough, so I'll give you something free. If you want to either track me down, direct message, whatever, there's a force plate video on the app that I've got now. So there's a lot of stuff in there about super nerd stuff, if you will, on how we use force plates. So please download that, let me know what you think. Not everybody's going to spend money on force plates, and it's unfortunate if you don't have access to the information. So Once you understand the information, it's great to test things. You don't actually have to use the force plates all the time. Already, you understand a lot about what's going on in the force plates. It's just actually when you see it, the picture comes together a lot more. And obviously, you're dealing with players who sometimes want to quantify it, but generally, your instincts are good. It's good to be able to put some things around. So download it. There we go. So gas force plates are the ones that we've gathered the data from. Stephen Gould, British guy, is here this week. Blake, who does all the testing for me. I call him Balake. If you haven't seen that video, I use it all the time with him. But it's really, really good stuff. It's probably one of the best I've seen in the industry. I think they're between 35 and 40 grand. So ideally, when I get done with this, you'll find out, okay, I can test on those occasions, but I really want to understand the principle of what's going on.
And gals for sticking around. Is that me?
I don't think it's on. Is that on? I don't think it is.
Mic's not on? Do I need it?
Hold on.
What if I just yell?
Go ahead.
Just yell? Mic's on.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody for sticking around. I'd like to say this is the first time I was presenting an open forum at 11 o'clock at night, but I think 2016, we had some folks stick around to hear me talk. I didn't catch much of the other presentations, but this one's going to be hopefully entertaining. You're going to learn some stuff. I'm going to try to make it worth your while to stick around, okay? So hopefully we'll keep the energy level high. So the title of the presentation is, you have a fast 7-iron but a slow driver. Anybody experience this themselves, or you had someone that you're instructing? Yeah, Chertock, Nick, what did you say your 7-iron speed was, 89? Right, exactly. And then, believe it or not, this is something that a lot of tour players have asked me, because they end up teeing off on a par 3, they're hitting the same 7-iron that the player next to them is, and then they go to the par 4, and now they're losing 40 yards down the fairway, right? And they're like, what gives, what's going on? So that's what we're going to talk about. So whether your driver speed is 78 or 128, we're all wondering, is there something that I can do to unlock a little more speed? And we're constantly observing our golf environment. In particular, we're looking at what other players do, right? We're searching for clues. Just like I'm sure everybody's looking at Bryson, or at all the young guys coming up like Michael Brennan, like Bachgeiter, Pugh on the DP World Tour. What are those guys doing so I can hit the ball further? Because a lot of times they're hitting 7-irons the same distance, right? You'll see it all the time on the telecast. Everybody's hitting a 7-iron in the same par 3. Maybe there's one guy going to, maybe Rory's playing a 6, but it's never 2 clubs. Yet Rory's got some guys by 40 yards with the driver. So what's going on? Worth some thought here. So do these golfers exist, and is it common? Yes, it is. Good. If your 7-iron is 90 miles per hour, how fast should your driver be? Should it be 108? Should it be 116? Who knows? If these underachievers exist, what are they doing differently than the achievers? And can we act on these differences? So, called up Eric Hendrickson at Ping, and he said, yeah, I think I'm interested in this. I said, great, next time you guys are doing an iron study, let's double up on it. Let's have them collect some drivers. Let's actually flush this out. So we had golfers, 32 golfers, I believe, that hit 7-irons until they were completely warmed up. Ping calls this being certified, so we know they're ready to go. They hit some stock 7-irons, as if they were same way they would in the course, and then we had them hit drivers, as if they were trying to get a reachable par 5 and 2. So just a full-blooded driver. This is the graph we get. There'll be a lot of graphs, but raise your hand if you're with me.
What are your thoughts on this idea of braking forces, and do you think you kind of have your own spin on it? Maybe, Scott, can we start with you? Because I know you talk about this a lot.
Yeah, I think they're essential to, I mean, you can produce speed without them, but it's not as efficient in my mind. There's going to be somewhere where things are going to start to get in trouble. And my analogy always is, you know, if your brakes only work to 50 miles an hour and I put you at 80 on the 4 freeway out here, you're going to freak out a little bit. Because, and I see that often, and I think the force plates generally can show you that, because you see very bumpy forces and things go haywire in people's minds when that happens, and so I think somewhere that's going to cost you, whether it's now or 10 years down the road. I don't think that's the most efficient way to swing it, and I like Sasha's Vinaldi last year, I believe, on this panel, where you talked about the car door, and so when you push the gas, the car door goes the wrong way. It would close, right? And so the only way you're going to get it to fly open would be to hit the brakes and cause it to go open. I was thinking about doing that. We were in the parking lot yesterday, but I had a rental car. I was like, I didn't want to.
Was it Greg that was on the sidewalk?
Knock the door off there.
Don't let the door.
But I forgot to do that.
So, hi. You sick of me yet? Dr. Rose. Along the same line, I think some of us, some people can think that we're supposed to, for instance, stop or slow down the pelvis intentionally. Can you explain how a human might get that to happen?
Okay, well, the deceleration of the pelvis, obviously we see that on kinematics on 3D, right? So you see the pelvis accelerates in the downswing, then it starts to slow down. So I think you're asking, how does the pelvis slow down? We believe that's from two ways. So there's obviously forces below the pelvis on the ground that are helping, like we're talking about deceleration. But there's also forces happening above, right? So if you think about like what turns your shoulders, what muscles turn your shoulders? What is it? Somebody's still awake. Oblique-abdominals, right? Oblique-abdominals are about 95% of trunk rotation, right? So if I rotate to the right, I got my right internal oblique, my left external oblique, that's what rotates to the right, and opposite going left. Well, think about where do those muscles insert, right? So your oblique abdominals go from your rib cage to your pelvis. So when a muscle contracts, it needs one side to be pulling, the two sides pull together. So when you rotate your torso, your oblique abdominals actually grab onto the pelvis, the only thing it's attached to try and get you to rotate the torso. So believe it or not, the forces above are decelerating the pelvis. At the same time, these braking forces below are happening, so you get almost a double whammy, which is what creates some rapid deceleration of the pelvis in some of the biggest hitters in the world. And I do want to say, on the first question you asked about deceleration, I never liked, Scott and I work together a lot, and I love, we like training brake forces. But I always tell people, I'm like, if you ask most golfers, what do you think your right leg is, a gas pedal or a brake pedal? What are most golfers going to say? They're going to say it's the gas pedal. You say, what's the lead leg, gas pedal or brake pedal? What do they say? They say, I think they usually say brake pedal, even though I think it's twice the gas pedal. So I'm always like, I want you to realize that you might be braking certain directions, but you're turning that into rapid accelerations in other directions. I never liked the idea of them trying to stop, even though there's rapid deceleration happening. If that made any sense.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. I think a good analogy is like shot put. So it's very clearly a brake when you hit the toe board, right? You call it a brake, but really that force is necessary to accelerate the pelvis. So it's totally a gas pedal.
And it's like twice the gas pedal as the trail side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
in a different direction.
In a different direction. Why you need that lead foot and shot put to plant behind you is, I think, a big reason why we need the pelvis to be opening early in the downswing. So when you apply those big forces, you better already have that hip starting to move behind you. If it's not, if it's closed, maybe you could run into a bit of a problem if you were really into the lead side and looking maybe a bit stack and tilt. It becomes very difficult if those hips are closed when you start to apply that force.